So I shared this story on my blog the other day, and I'm still processing it, so I want to talk about it. Um, I went to a luncheon with some people, and the question was share something vulnerable about yourself and describe how it's a strength and a weakness for you. And I don't know if I'm the only one that does this, but as we started going around the table and everybody starts talking, my brain is processing, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? How are you going to say it? Connecting the dots. So it's really hard for me to focus sometimes on what other people are saying, especially if I am having to formulate what I'm going to say. So it gets to me, it's my turn. And I shared, that a lot of people may know that, I experienced trauma in my childhood from sexual abuse. And what they may not know, what's vulnerable about that, is that I had to spend a lot of my time thinking of ways to avoid abuse. And I also had to spend a lot of time thinking of how to keep the secret, making sure no one knew, making sure that I knew I looked like everything was fine. Because if anyone found out, really bad things were going to happen. And I didn't want that. But I also didn't want the abuse. So I was thinking, if I do it this way, or if I go this way, or if I show up at this time, it's not going to happen. So instead of thinking about normal childhood things or playing with toys or whatever, those were thoughts that dominated my mind. Because of that, one of the strengths, if you want to call it a strength, that I have is I overthink things. I think about everything. So if you tell me to think about what if we went on a trip on this day, for example, I don't just think about what if we went on a trip. I think about all the things that could happen, all the things that we need to consider. I look at all four corners of the room. I overanalyze, and I really overthink it. I don't know that that's a strength. That's probably a weakness. But if you're wanting to make sure you've got all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, I'm your girl, because I'm going to overthink it. That's one thing. But the other thing that I do is I feel responsible for things that aren't my responsibility. And so, for example, if you said to me, what if we go on this trip? I feel like I need to check all four corners of the room and give you all of the information, because if I don't, and I leave something out or something goes wrong, you're going to blame me and it's going to be my fault. And that is taking responsibility for things that are not mine. And so as I'm describing this to people in this meeting, it's just for the first time coming together in my mind that this is why I think this way. And yes, it can be a strength, but it can also be a weakness. And I don't have to think this way anymore. And so what am I going to do about it? So after that meeting, I connected with that part of me, that little girl part of me that feels like she needs to analyze everything. And I said to her that when we start feeling that way again, and I start feeling like I'm overanalyzing or feeling too much responsibility for something that's not my responsibility, that I'm going to just stop and connect with her, thank her for all of her hard work, and thank her for all that she did to keep us safe. But I'm going to reassure her that we're safe now and that she doesn't have to do that anymore. And she can go play. She can go swing. She can go color. She can go play with her toys. She can do all the things that make her happy. And then I am going to do things that make me happy. I'll go get coffee with a friend. I'll go for a walk. I'll go feed the cows that I love. But I'm not going to sweat it. I'm not going to worry about answering all the questions and figuring out all the scenarios. And I'm certainly not going to take responsibility. And so that has helped me now, because when I see it taking place again, I know where it's coming from. I know why I'm doing it. And I'm able to talk myself down and say, hey, we don't have to do that anymore. Let's get ice cream. Let's enjoy life. We're safe. And it's a beautiful thing. And I want that for you too. So if you haven't thought of lately, what are some of the ways trauma impacted me? What are some of the things that I deal with on a daily basis that most people have no idea how much it keeps me up at night? For example, on the over responsibility, I had a job before where one tiny part of my job, a tiny part of my job, was to call people if they hadn't paid their bill. And it was an optional thing. It wasn't even something I had to do. They got their bill, they got their email, they knew their bill was due. They got the same bill every month. But if they didn't pay it, I felt responsible. Maybe I should have called again. Maybe I should have emailed them again. I'm going to call again. I'm going to try to email them. And then I would stay awake at night worrying about it. And I couldn't undo that. Like, I know that sounds irrational right now, but in that moment back then, I truly felt responsible. And I let it eat me up. And today, as far as I've come with healing, I would just think, you know what? They got the bill. It's their bill. I've called once. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. They know it's due. And I don't have to take on that responsibility. And again, that's just one example. And I'm 50, so I've lived like that for a long time. And I don't want to live like that anymore. And maybe you shouldn't have to live like that anymore. If there are things that you're doing that's a result of the trauma that you experienced, and it's impacted all kinds of areas of your life, sometimes in a good way, but sometimes in a bad way. It doesn't have to be like that anymore. You're safe. Just tell yourself you're safe. Safety is huge. It's a big, big, big thing. And when you feel safe, you can breathe. You can relax. You can enjoy your ice cream. Have a good day.